Welcome back to the 500 Sprintcast. So glad to be here once again. I'm Zach Heiser, Ashton Smyth joining me once more. And this is a big show because by the time you're hearing or seeing this, Ashton, it is race day for the 500 Sprint Car Tour.
Yes, time to kick off the 2025 season. Everyone is super excited. No better place to kick it off than at Anderson Speedway. And, record-breaking fashion as well. So many storylines to dive into that we'll kind of, cover here tonight. But Zach, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm ready to get this season started.
You and I are both going to have to exercise our Dirt Vision subscriptions to take this one in, which breaks both of our hearts because we would love to be down there for the opener for the 500 Sprint Car Tour. We are, as you mentioned, going to go over all the details after our featured interview tonight. But first and foremost, a couple of headlines from across the week. Ashton, as we get ready for this one, Anderson Speedway was able to make a big announcement this week ahead of the Little 500 coming up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, a local Anderson company of Unified Group Services is the new entitlement sponsor for the Little 500 for many years to come. Great to see a local Anderson company hopping on board. That was what really stuck out to me about that, announcement. The town of Anderson really comes together for the Little 500. So having that support from the community as well is huge, and it's just going to do nothing but help this race continue to blossom.
Now, 2 weeks ago, when we had our show, we told you that the Kenyon Midget Series would actually open their season prior to Thursday's rescheduled event, and that happened at the Sportsdrome Speedway. And of course, we'll talk to the winner coming up in just a few moments. But Ashton, 15 cars on the property, again, a rescheduled race, so kind of a short turnaround there, but another great show for the Kenyon Midgets.
Yeah, Dameron Taylor picking up the win. Like you said, we'll talk to him in just a little bit, but it was not without pressure from just about everyone in the field. The top five moving and shaking and down until the last lap, and Dameron Taylor picking up his 34th win with the series. Holy cow.
Wow. Yeah, Evan Hammond second, Isaac Johnson rounding out the podium. How about Kyle Sheard from ninth to come up to be in the top five? Good work there for Kyle as he worked his way through the field. So, big headlines coming up, talking about the 500 Sprint Car Tour opener. We will do that straight ahead. We kind of fly through the short stack of headlines here this week. But right now, I want to tell you that Redline Ace, they are a proud supporter of the 500 Sprintcast, and we, of course, appreciate their support. A motorsports driven design agency working with series teams and drivers from all aspects of racing. Owner creative Ben Porter has worked on projects from Formula One to local kart racers, and he wants to inject the experience into every single client that he works with. In a sport that separates competitors, wins, and sponsorships by razor thin margins, why not hire Redline Ace to boost your brand? Do that before the competition does.
Our special guest joining us this week already ended up in victory lane after the very first Kenyon Midget Series race at Sportsdrome Speedway last week. Welcome in, Dameron Taylor. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you guys as well.
Yeah, of course. Before we jump into your Kenyon Midget Series experience and accolades with that, I wanted to take it back from the beginning. How did you get into racing? How long have you been racing? Tell me your racing story.
So my great grandpa used to race. I believe he raced airplanes and dirt bikes, and then my grandfather, um, um, he started with stock cars. He actually turned the family car into a race car, and it was the only car that they had. So my nana, that went over very well.
Ah,
And then he moved on to ASA when ASA became a thing, and then when my dad started running. Can't remember what age he started, but he was in goat karts. Went from goat karts to modifieds, and then ASA, and back to modifieds. And he's done some figure eight stuff at the speedrome. And then as he was getting out, I was getting into it, and I started at the speedrome in some Hornets because at the time that's when he was running figure eight cars. So that was the easiest and quickest thing to get me involved with. Right off the bat, they found that they thought that I had some talent, so they're starting to search around and try to find what I could do. And we started to talk to Mark Dismore down at the goat kart track to see if we could get something there. Just kind of talking around everywhere. We had at the speedrome at the time, can't remember his name. I want to say it was think Larry something. I can't remember his name right off the bat, but he used to work with Tony Stewart. He's passed away now. But he was running the speedrome for a couple years. He was trying to get me into some of the lower Indy car classes that have moved over here from Europe area when they was going to move them over here, and we ended up not going that route either. And around that same time when that was falling apart, we got in contact with Mel and Don Kenyon, and Mel was really interested in putting me in their house car. At the time, they were having a house car run out of their shop to put any up and coming driver in their car. So we went ahead and set up a test with them, went to the speedrome. My first time out on the track in their house car. I remember my dad telling me that he was standing next to Mel Kenyon, and while I was out there my first time on the track, Mel Kenyon looked at him and said that I reminded him a lot of himself. So from there on forward, we assumed that I had a pretty hot shoe and was going to start taking the path of what I could do to move up. And then and 2012 was my first full season of running the Kenyon series, and it kind of took off from there.
Wow.
Well, and I was just going to add to that. The stats that I can see is you have pretty much always been good in the Kenyon Midget series. I mean, this stat line for you is unprecedented. What is it about this division of race car that fits what you do so well?
Um, I mean, at the beginning it was tough, it was hard, but as times went on, I'm assuming other drivers that's been in the cars for quite a while would say the same. But the more that you drive these cars, the more that you get used to them. Same with Focus midgets, National midgets. They all kind of drive like an oversized goat kart. My first season in 2012, we had it separated to where we had a speedrome championship and a national championship because we ran so many races at the speedrome. And if I remember correctly, I lost both of them my very first rookie year. I got rookie of the year, obviously, but I was competing with Travis Young. And one of the championships, he won by 7 points, and the other, he won by 14 points. So
Oh,
I was that close and winning both of the championships. So on top of the three championships that I have and two being back to back, I've had a lot of second places and third places too.
You mentioned a couple other midget series, and obviously there's all different sorts, but for viewers who are listening at home who might not be as familiar with the Kenyon Midget series, kind of run through, what the differences are. What is a Kenyon Midget?
So Kenyon Midget is an open wheel race car. They're powered by an older Yamaha motorcycle engine. Very similar to what's in the Legend cars. They're a little bit different from the two, um, but they're that's basically all they are. They're just horse powered by backed by a Yamaha motorcycle engine.
all right, let's talk about this run of success that you've had here. Now, the stat lines that I can see go back to 2015, so I'm missing a couple of years of your career in this division. But what is listed, and again, I know this number is going to fall short, is 32 wins in 109 starts. Now, I don't know what the actual number is supposed to be because we're missing 2, 3 years there. But alongside that, 82 top fives, 99 top 10 finishes, those championships that you've talked about, winning doesn't get old, but my goodness, man, are you still having fun in these cars? Where has the challenge come from? I mean, what keeps you coming back to this division? And you're not winning every time you're out there, but you're winning a lot. Where do you continue to find the challenge in this car?
I would say around 2018 to 2020 or so, it did nothing really died off, but kind of back to what you were saying, it did kind of get mediocre. And not that I didn't have challenges or anything like that. I always had competitive people racing against me, but it was always the same tracks. So towards the end of Mel and Don owning the series to now Brad Hayes taking over the series, they started reaching out and going to some new tracks. And now that Brad's taken over, he's really ventured out to some new tracks. So it's kind of changed a lot of the platform. And that, amongst another thing, is what has made me want to stick around. Now that we're going to bigger tracks, we're doing different things. And to be able to go to a faster track, it's going to allow me to adjust and get used to the speeds before I go into a bigger car more permanently. The second thing that's kind of made me want to stick around is the series itself is very family oriented. And now that I've been with the series for so long and I've had such success that I've had, I kind of look at myself as being more as a mentor kind of a thing. So I I feel some people think that I should move up. At the same time, I feel like I should still stick around because every year, year in and year out, there's always new people revolving through the series, and they always want to come to me to ask questions. And I appreciate that because I help guide them the ways to go. And I'm really good at Anderson. I'm really good at the speedrome, so I have a lot of good pointers on. I can help them pick up some speed and pick up some pace at those tracks there. And I think that they appreciate that. So that's what helps me keep coming back as well.
I want to go back to what you said about the transition for Kenyon midgets because I've been a part on a different side of things of really well established sanctioning bodies that start to tail off on the original ownership and management, and then they get a rebirth. What has that been like working with Brad? And we talked to him last episode on the show, and you can hear the passion that he has for the Kenyon midgets and the projection that he is putting out there for them. What's it been like to work with him to kind of revitalize this division?
It's been very, very well to work with him. He's very open-hearted and open-minded to what it takes to get the series to grow. He takes any suggestions to heart, and he normally runs with most of those to see if it will make a difference with the series. I think with expanding to all the tracks, now we have a podcast. The biggest improvement is the social media stance, trying to get some more sponsors backing the purse and to back the day-to-day expenses on his end for running the series. And like I said, the social media stuff, a lot of that being pushed is what's helped continue the series and continue it to grow. And then all of his background by being able to pull all these people from the karting era into the midgets is a huge stepping stone because they can go to the lower IndyCar classes, but if they'd like to do something that's a half step before you get there, the Kenyon series is a very reasonably cost-effective series to move into.
I wanted to touch back on something you said a little bit ago. You were talking about your notebook, and last weekend at Sportsdrome Speedway, that kind of came into effect. You've raced there before, but it's been a little while, and I was reading a press release and it said you were a little nervous. What was it like going back to Sportsdrome Speedway? And, what did you feel, rolling into the pits?
Um, at first I was nervous because I know at the beginning of the season we was talking for Anderson's opening race that ended up raining out was possibly going to have 18 to 20 cars, which I know right now we have 18 on the entry list for tomorrow. So if anybody's not going to go to Anderson, they should go to Anderson. We're going to have 25 sprint cars as well. So it's over 40 open wheel cars that's going to be at the racetrack, and that's huge for open wheel racing, for pavement racing. But what was making me nervous is that I assume we were still going to have around that many cars. I think we had 14 or 15 that was able to make it down there, which is still good for a work night. But what was making me nervous is the last notes that we had was from 2017, and I don't know if that is the last time I had been there or not, but the notes that we had for 2017, so we kind of used a mix of that, mix of the speedrome, and mix of Salem to put on the car, and thankfully we showed up, and the car just happened to be in my favor.
And when you look at it on paper too, start on the pin, go to victory lane. Just at baseline, it sounds like a dominating performance. How good was that race for you?
Um, it was really good. I like when I show up and we can not have to be so edgy on working on the car. I like when we show up to the track and it's good to go because when it's like that, then I'm able to walk around and go from team to team and kind of talk. And that's another thing that's very good about the series is that everybody walks around and talks to each other. Nobody really keeps to themselves. If we all see that one car is struggling really, really bad, then you'll see two, three, four other racers over there trying to give the driver pointers or crew over there giving the other crew opinions on what they should do with their car to help it get faster. So that's one really good thing that's good about this series is that we're about making everybody be competitive for the winning position.
All right, you talk about hearing and feeling the pressure to move from Kenyon midgets into the next realm of open wheel racing. And you've dabbled, you've played around, you've got starts, and attempts in, must see and 500 and back in the auto value days. What does your path look like right now? I can kind of feel it. You feel like this may be one of your last full time years in the Kenyon midgets before you really make that jump. What does your path look like? And I mean, how eager are you to get into the full size sprint car realm?
I'm always eager. We're always trying to organize things over here at the shop to to get things to run more smoothly. Obviously, because the sprint car is not something like the Kenyon car, whereas a lot of times I'll just jump in it and go. And with a sprint car, you can't do that because you got to be focused. You got to make sure the car is ready. It's too dangerous to hop in a car like that and just take off somewhere. I know I'm definitely ready for it talent wise. Like you mentioned, I've ran with Must See. My first and only time being in a wing car, and we showed up to the track and was running around Jeff Bloom and all the good guys in the series. We went out for the first practice and couldn't get it to start. Went out second practice, couldn't get it to start, and we had never even tested the car. And went out for no, we missed qualifying as well. We went out for the heat race, and uh, we got it fired up because Rick allowed us to fire the car. And we went out for the heat races on the front, and they do their warm up sessions. And they came on the radio and said if I felt comfortable that I could go ahead and stay out there. When we did the warm up session, I pulled a half lap on everybody. So I went ahead and stayed on the pole and stayed there and ran the heat race. And from the pole, I won the heat race. And when we came off the track, car felt good, felt perfect. And we looked at my lap times and felt good with the lap times for the heat race. And then come the feature, if I remember correctly, I was in around 16th place or so and dropped back a couple spots. And then towards the end, I was battling with Jeff Bloom for 6th or 7th place. So
I've
that was
got you
my very
down
first.
for an eighth and a sixth place finish all time with Must See, both at Anderson. So that's not bad.
Yeah, so that was my first time being in one of those cars and being around somebody to pass somebody on that track. So, and I think that was my first time in a sprint car altogether. So I was very proud of what I did. And then come to find out, I believe Neuenschwander won that race, the one I'm speaking of. And his fastest lap time, I was only, I think, 2/10 off his fastest feature time that I was in the heat race. So we was very proud of that. So then we've moved on from there and went to some non-wing stuff, went to Toledo. Um, and a lot of that is where I start talking about the whole speed differences. With the Kenyon series, we've been to a lot of tracks that we've been around 60 to 87-ish mile an hour or so at Anderson. And when you start moving to these bigger tracks, we're able to get these cars closer to the 100-mile-an-hour range. And I personally feel like once you hit that 100-mile mark or faster, a lot of things start to change. Everything's going by a lot faster. There's a lot more blur in your vision. There's a lot more things that can happen in the car that happens in the snap of a finger instead of two snaps of the finger, just by the extra 10 mile an hour that we're getting. So by doing that and having the experience of going to Wasso and Berlin and all of these other bigger tracks that we're going to, it'll make transitioning from this series to sprint cars a whole lot easier.
So moving forward into 2025, you've obviously been to a lot of the racetracks. Looking at the schedule, which track are you most looking forward to?
Um, well, the first time we went to Berlin, how that went, I would say I'm not looking forward to go there, but how I performed there last year, I was able to do a double feature in the same night and win both. So if I could do something to be similar to that, then I'd say Berlin. Just because it's very fast paced, but it's very, very racy. So I would assume with how fast paced it was that we wouldn't have a lot of passing or we wouldn't be very close to each other. And last year kind of proved different to that. With the speeds being that high and still being able to race close with each other and race clean. I look forward to going up there just because one, taking a trip to Michigan is kind of nice to get out of everybody's comfort zone. It's kind of away from where everybody is around. But obviously, I always look forward to going to Anderson too because I'm really comfortable with how that track runs too. So.
All right. Oh, did you have one more, Ashton? Because I was going to go completely off the rails here. So if you got one more,
Completely off the rails.
I am
Like
going to go
close
off
it.
the rails. No, I'm just going to ask him because this is, for
Go
those who
for it.
are watching on YouTube, I've never been able to conduct an interview with a guy sitting in his race car. When you jumped on tonight, I was like, okay, you're all in, but you're actually working right now. Tell us what's going on right now. We interrupted some progress on this race car.
Well, the rear end was bent a little bit, so I was still able to win at the sports room with a bent rear end somehow. So we went ahead and got it out because we was afraid it'd cause problems at Anderson with the extra G-force and the high bank there. So we got it straightened out. We got it in, and then there was a new rule change to go from having a regular seat to now we have to have full containment seat. And I had the same seat for 12 years and just paid no attention to it. And when we got to the track, Brad was like, "Hey, we need to change your seat." So we pulled a seat out of one of the other cars we got and put it in here. And that's what we just got done doing here. The only thing I got left is make sure all the belts are where they got to go.
All right. So for those who don't know, a regular old seat, you don't have all this going on. I mean, you got a headrest. That's about it. How's it feel? How's it feel? You're about 24 hours from race time. You comfortable?
Yeah, it feels pretty good, a little snug. I don't like the only thing I don't like about full containment seats is the part being against your shoulders, but it is what it is, and it's part of the safety stuff. If it wasn't safer, then they wouldn't have came out with it. So
Right. That's right. All right. Final thing from me. In victory lane, there's a picture on social media. You got a little one in victory lane with you. Who is that and how special is that for you?
she just turned 6. It's my oldest daughter, Cora. That is my dad commented on that picture because he also has an old picture of when I was young. How old was I? He said I was about 5 or so in the picture that he's got. It was in a modified where he had just won a race, and it looked very similar to the picture I just took with her. But she is one of 4 girls that I have, and I have another one on the way, which is also going to be a girl. So I might have a 5-car girl team here soon.
I was
Oh,
gonna say we'll look to see Cora in victory lane in about 10 to 15 years, right?
Yeah.
I love that. All right, sir. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight. And when this comes out, you'll be gearing up for a big race weekend, and folks can catch that, of course, on Dirt Vision and see how things go. So good luck.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing up the stats. I really didn't know how all the stats were. I know I am at 34 wins. I was at 33 and Sportsdrome was 34. But all the other stats I did not know. That's a lot of races. But if you don't have 2012 to 2015 and we're at 109, I think you said,
Yep.
then
2020. So for 10 years, right? 2015 to 2025, 32 wins and 109 starts.
I think there was about 16 to 18 races. So if you added another close to 60 to that,
Not
probably
bad.
maybe 50, 60. So we're pushing 100, over 150, I would say. But to mention more about the Focus car, the All-Star Midget Series that IRP is putting on, we was able to find a car for that. So I will be running those races at IRP as well.
Nice. Expanding the footprint.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, hey, good luck with the races this weekend, and who knows, maybe we'll have to have you on the show a little bit later on this season talking about another championship.
Yeah. No. Thank you guys. I appreciate what you guys are doing for the series and everything, and appreciate the interview.
Well, what a great conversation there with Dameron, and such an interesting thing, Ashton. Somebody who, knows that they want to move up, is kind of feeling the pressure to move up, has the talent to move up. It'll be fun to watch his trajectory over the next couple of years, won't it?
Oh, 100%. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Dameron Taylor behind the wheel of a sprint car within the next 5 years. And not only that, back in victory lane again in a sprint car. Like you said, he has the talent 120%. So he's going to be one to watch this year as he chases his 4th championship and adding to his long list of trips to victory lane with the Kenyon Midget Series.
All right, let's talk about this again. We mentioned if you're hearing this on Thursday, it is race day. Ashton, you and I talked pre-show. I know how exciting. You have an unbelievable notebook for the 500 Sprint Car Tour, and specifically this event. This is a huge kickoff, unofficial tune-up for the little 500, rookie class, testing on Tuesday of this week. So much going on. I don't even know where to start. Maybe the place to start is how many people are entered for this contest tonight.
Has 25 cars, so we will see a BMA Anderson Speedway. And talking to Jared Owen earlier today, I believe that this is the 3rd time ever that this has happened with the series. We can only start 24 cars for the feature, and especially Anderson Speedway, it's a small bull ring that still could play some lap traffic in with a field of 24 cars. So that's insane. But not only that, the talent behind the drivers, the 25 drivers that are entered, is absolutely incredible. I would not be surprised if the top 15 is all within a tenth or two of each other with qualifying. Like you said, they're all tuning up for the little 500. And that brings guys out of the woodworks that we haven't necessarily seen yet, or haven't seen in a while as they get ready for the little 500 in May.
Yeah, let's talk about our defending series champion, obviously Cody Swanson. We were talking As we are getting ready for the show, Cody has one win on the season last year. He's just so incredibly consistent that allowed him to capture that championship. And some purists would contest his win from last year. Let's talk about Cody Swanson a little bit. He's got a lot of variables on his plate coming into the season. By the way, almost wrecked the heck out of a Silver Crown car on Sunday. That was wild if you didn't see that one at Terre Haute. But so now he's going to settle down, new team, trying to defend a championship, has this two-part deal going on in the Silver Crown. Ashton, there's a lot happening for Cody Swanson right now.
Yeah, Cody Swanson picking up the season opener win last year, as you say, after a DQ from the race winner, but he was in a different car than he was in the back half of the season and that whole race this year in the 25th running of the Glen Nibel Classic. He's back with Nick Bohannon and with the support of Salem Speedway in that 33 car. They struggled a little bit towards, right at the start of that transition, trying to iron out the bumps of, new team, new driver pairing. But towards the end of the season, they really, had a fire lit under them and, claiming that championship with Cody Swanson. They're back in 2025. It should be the full schedule this year as far as I know. And Cody has not only won it last year, he's won it two times before
Yeah.
this event specifically. And he knows Anderson Speedway like the back of his hand. But he's not the only one who has that experience or has this win or this race win specifically on their resume. There's actually four drivers in the field who have won this race before.
Yeah, and I was going to move on to the other guy who shares another accolade as a 500 Sprint Car Tour champion and a winner of this event. Also, a front row starter in the Little Five, a winner of the Little Five. That's, of course, Tyler Rohrig. And we spoke on the show that we had a couple of weeks ago. Tyler's looking for something more, and we laughed and said, "What could you be looking for?" Ashton, they tested this week, and you heard things, actually went well. Tyler feels pretty good coming out of that test.
Yeah, Tyler going into the 2025 season said he was missing something, wasn't sure what that was, even though he is the winningest driver with the series by far. He was missing something. He just wasn't necessarily happy with what it was. So moving into the 2025 season, basically a brand new car besides the chassis and engine, everything else is new. And like you said, they tested on Tuesday and he said he was happy with the car, which race car drivers are never satisfied. So for a driver to say, "Hey, I'm happy with how this is going," is that going to give Tyler that little extra confidence boost to claim his second championship at the end of the year? You talked about it a little bit before, Cody Swanson picking up the championship last year and also his second 500 Sprint Car Tour championship. Tyler Rohrig's the only other one to have a championship. So many wins under Tyler Rohrig's name. And, it's going to be another record year for Tyler Rohrig if he's going into 2025 feeling like he might have worked out what he wasn't necessarily happy with before.
Yeah, cue the Eric Church for Tyler Rohrig in 2025. All right, the other two drivers that have wins in this event, Bobby Santos, Kyle O'Gara, household names in the 500 Sprint Car Tour, Ashton. Now, what do we come to expect out of them for Anderson Speedway? That's the question.
Yeah, Kyle O'Gara, bad wreck halfway through the season last year, new pieces onto that race car. And he struggled a little bit in the second half of the season, just trying to, like we talked about with Rohrig, iron out those pieces that, aren't necessarily there when you get into a new car. But Kyle O'Gara tested, he's actually, as we're recording this right now, he's testing at Anderson Speedway right now. And I had the opportunity to talk to him a little bit earlier on, and he was very happy with how they were running and was expecting close to track record track record times tomorrow during qualifying and during the race. So Kyle O'Gara confident. Bobby Santos rolls into the pit area. He knows he has that experience behind him. These are going to be four guys that have all won this before and are going to be at the front, but they also have a lot of new guys who have huge accolades behind them to be watching out for as well.
Absolutely. And then Bobby Santos, of course, open wheel ace. You don't really need to qualify anything that he's doing behind the wheel of a race car. Ashton, let's go over this rookie class for this year. We touched on it lightly in our first show last week. Now it's getting serious as we eyeball the first race of the season. This is a massive rookie class coming into the 2025 season. Kind of recap, give us the footnotes, if you will. A lot of storylines coming into this season opener.
Yeah, we talked about, some of the front runners, your Swansons, O'Gara, Roygs, who have tested this week, but we've also seen some rookies test this week, that of being Chase Locke and Colton Bettis. Chase Locke first, taking a different jump. We typically see him in a super modified running up in the Northeast. He's now running the full sprint car season this year. He was out on Monday testing at Anderson Speedway with the Matt Seymour crew alongside Jake Trainer as they get ready for the Little 500. And he found a lot of comfort in that sprint car. It's got to be a hard jump from a super modified to a sprint car, but Chase looks like he's adjusting very well, and we'll see how he does at Anderson. And then Colton Bettis, of course, if you've been paying attention to sprint car news in the past couple of months, you have heard of Colton Bettis. Just turned 16 earlier on in the 2025 season, and wow, what a impressive list that this driver has behind him. Most recently picking up the Children's Dream Fund 50 win in Florida earlier this year, beating
Right.
out drivers like Aaron Willison, who has won the open wheel showdown, beating out drivers like Cody Swanson, who is a household name in asphalt sprint car racing, and also specifically geared toward this event with the Glen Nibel Classic. Colton Bettis is running with Aaron Pierce. Aaron Pierce is the winningest driver of this event, six-time winner. Is that knowledge, that insight going to help give Colton that little extra boost to be a front runner?
It can't hurt.
Very true. Very
It
true.
cannot hurt. It cannot hurt. All right, Matt Dimmitt, he'll be a rookie this year, defending Midwest Modifieds Tour champion up here. I know that they were able to turn some laps in that Dennis Kraft owned machine. Well, I guess it's kind of a partnership deal between those two, Dennis Kraft and Matt Dimmitt. They were able to turn some laps. We're pretty happy with it. How about Brady Allen? I know this was a story you were very kind of locked in on, and we talked about it briefly last week. This is kind of one of those you're hoping for a comeback story out of Brady this year.
100%. So Brady Allen raced the season with us last year, or started the season rather, and was expecting to run the whole 2024 season. He ended up having three starts. The third race, he got into a very bad wreck during qualifying that ended up ending his 2024 season. Well, he's back in 2025, and he has the program behind him that he might have been missing last year in 2024. He has two cars this year, one of which is a brand new Beast chassis, the other one being an old Cody Swanson car that we saw Cody race in 2024. It's an old Brian Tyler car, who is a two-time Little 500 winning car owner. So Brady has come into 2025 guns a blaring and ready to race and ready to conquer that rookie of the year title. And, you know, Brady, we talked about him a lot towards the start of the season because he is a little bit different than the rest of the drivers as he's hauling from North Carolina
Wow.
each and every single month for these races. Like that's a pretty far drive.
Yeah,
Um, and that might be playing against him a little bit as he's not as familiar with those tracks up in the Indiana, Michigan area as, most of these guys who are locals with the series.
absolutely. All right, just a couple more. We don't want to leave anybody out. And again, they all have storylines. Landon Butler, Rylan Gray. First, let's talk about Landon because people may hear that Butler name and go, now, wait a minute. You said rookie. Careful. This is Landon this year, Ashton. Talk to us about that family, why we know that name.
Yeah, exactly. Landed the third generation driver. His dad, Shane Butler, ran the full season last year and has, ran asphalt sprint cars for a long time. And then Landon's grandfather, Stan Butler, also many accolades. We saw Landon run a few times last year, not able to run the full season strictly due to his age. Well, he's back this year and he's running the full season. And Father Shane has actually taken a back seat and said, "Hey, I'm going to help Landon this year." So not only is Landon coming in with a little bit of sprint car experience already, but he also has that notebook and that knowledge of his dad and his grandfather, going into all of these races. That's going to be huge for Landon and that 18 team.
Absolutely. And when you've got a fresh notebook too. You've got dad to lean on who just ran these cars and these racetracks last year. All right. And then last one, Rylan Gray, kind of a question mark for this season, Ashton. A lot depends on how the start of the year goes to what happens for the rest of the season. Is that right?
Exactly. Rylan Gray, another young driver that we've seen not on asphalt, though. He is a dirt midget driver. We've seen him podium a couple times with the Extreme Outlaw Midget Series, as well as picking up wins at lots of different local tracks in a midget, and now he is deciding to attempt an asphalt sprint car. And tomorrow at Anderson Speedway will be his first time in an asphalt sprint car in the Speed Chasers Tom Brewer owned machine, and also some switching and changing up for that team as well, which has been a staple in asphalt sprint car racing for such a long time. They just bought a brand new chassis from Mark Hall, and it's actually a Beast chassis, which the Speed Chasers team is not used to running Beast chassis. So lots of new going into that, but Rylan being such a seasoned rookie, if you will, on dirt.
Yeah, that doesn't normally go together, but
Yeah,
it
no.
works.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, I'm excited to see what Rylan can do this season, especially with that team behind him.
All right, last headline as we get ready to wrap up this week's show. Very unique for those who are kind of on the technical side of things. Technical bulletin: the Hoosier tires that'll be mounted under these 500 Sprint Car Tour chassis this week will be a little bit different than what we saw last year, but not so different than what we've seen in years past. Ashton, there has been a change again to the tire rule for the 500 Sprint Car Tour.
Yeah, if anyone knows me, I love talking tires. So when I got off the phone with Jared a little bit earlier and we were talking tires, I was so happy. So back this season in the 2025 season, the M40 tire for the right sides is back. And then you have the option of the M20 or the M30 on the left side. Now, like I said, the M40 is back. Tyler Roy currently holds the track record for the 500 Sprint Car Tour at Anderson Speedway, and that's an 11:09.7. That was on the M40. A lot of these guys have been testing this week, the M40 being a softer compound than what they had last season. And a lot of these guys testing this week, they're consistently running 11.2s, breaking into that 11.1s range. Zach, I really think we have the opportunity to see a new track record this weekend. If not, many guys break that track record. And another thing, obviously, Indiana has seen a lot of rain
That's right.
recently. So it's going to be a very green racetrack. All that record rain, going to wash a lot of that rubber away. That's going to affect a lot going into tomorrow's race as well.
Yeah, and here's the thing to consider for again, if you're hearing this on Thursday, tonight's event, this is going to be picture perfect type of racing weather for a track record to fall because you're going to have some sun, you're going to have some clouds. It's not going to be overly hot. It's going to be a perfect day for you and I, the fans, upwards of 70 degrees for the forecasted high. That is picture perfect for a track record run. Just cool enough that the engines are going to be firing absolutely beautiful. Just warm enough that the tires are going to be gripping the racetrack absolutely beautiful. Get your stopwatches and head down to Anderson Speedway. The Glen Nibel Classic, 25th running of the Glen Nibel Classic here. Again, if you're listening to this on Thursday, it'll be coming up tonight with the 500 Sprint Car Tour. So get on down there. Tickets still available at the gate on race day at Anderson Speedway. And that'll do it for this week's show. If you can't make it to the racetrack, please work out that Dirt Vision subscription and keep an eye on what's going on. In the meantime, for Ashton Smyth and, of course, Jared Owen, Brad Hayes with the 500 Sprint Car Tour and the Kenyon Midget Series, I'm Zach Heiser, and we'll see you and talk to you in 2 weeks on the next episode of the 500 Sprintcast.